Nice room you've got there.
Oh, thank you. I got some guitars there.
Color coordination's nice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I don't know. My house looks kind of Nickelodeon, to be honest. I got excited about color when I moved in, and I painted like I've got an orange kitchen. I've got like a bright blue living room. You know what I mean? I went a little nuts. I could probably tone it down a little bit, but
Yeah,
it's fine.
that's great. Well, here I am really vivid with the gray.
Mm. Look great. You're doing good.
Thanks. So this is really nice. It's weird because, we've kind of been running in the same circles for a while, and it's the first time we're getting a chance to sit down and chat. But
Yeah.
really, this is all about coming to Buffalo on March 9th to the Town Ballroom. And you're coming with Devin Allman and who else? I didn't see anybody else listed on the package.
The River Kittens, I know are kicking off the show. I can't remember who is our special guest that day, um, but we'll be traveling. I know the three guests on the tour are probably gonna be Luther Dickinson, I think Jimmy Hall, and Eric Gales. Uh, but I'm not exactly sure who's gonna be on Buffalo. So maybe.
Okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, Eric and I are friends. We just had him on the show about 2 or 3 weeks ago to launch his Crown album and do some talking.
Yeah, he's amazing. I just saw him on the Joe Bonamassa cruise. We got to chit chat a little bit. He's such a sweetheart, and like I love LaDonna. I love the whole band, but that he blows me away,
Yeah, he's
honestly.
pretty special. Yeah, he's got some really great attributes going on, especially with his technique and just the way he comes across as an artist. It's unique, like we were saying. But so are you. I mean, you're really an inspirational artist to a lot of people now, and not just blues artists in the sense that you are, crossing over and doing great things in terms of achieving popularity and success as an indie artist, but men and women alike. I think the phrase that I really latched onto from your new album, Faster, was fun, sexy, and empowering. And I think that's a really encompassing statement for what you're all about, and if not the album itself. So I'd like to talk about the record. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
So I mean, there's a lot to say about it, but you know, um, I saw the video for Faster, and I noticed the car in it. Was that a 1967 442 Oldsmobile?
Yes, it was. I believe it was.
Awesome. My dad had two of those.
Yeah, I got to drive it. That was pretty incredible. I was driving it around Nashville.
Yeah, that had to be quite a charge. I mean, I never drove one, but my dad used to street race, and he would tell me the stories of just what a great car that was. But it was, a sexy video, and and there was a number of cuts on here. If you don't mind me saying that, some of them reminded me of some really successful pop tunes out there. And I think one of them, what was it? So-called Lover. When that riff comes in chugging and charging like that, it reminds me like I'm waiting to hear Billy Idol come in and start singing Rebel Yell. You know,
Right, right.
what I think you've done really successfully on the album is brought your bluesy guitar playing and your soulful singing together with some really tried and true classic pop elements with your producer, and just created something special. And it really defies genre, you know?
Thank you. I really wanted to focus. Um, this has always just been a key focus of mine when I'm making an album or writing songs, just to really focus on the song, and not specifically like a genre. I feel like you got to pull all that together in the studio and session, like marry everything together. But I really like focusing on making the songs good and catchy, and something that's like with like a melody that gets stuck and then in your head, right? So that's just something I've been trying to focus on for a while, and I feel like we kind of hit like all over the park with this one, just because, yeah, So-Called Lover, it's kind of got this like punk rock element to it.
Exactly, yeah.
And there's some pop elements to the album. There's some, I think some more heartfelt Americana moments. But then, for me, my guitar playing, I really approach it from like a blues background. You know, like that's just sort of how I play guitar. Rock and roll and blues has been my biggest inspiration with that instrument. And so I sort of approach everything I do from, you know, from that background.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, because that's where I come from too as an artist. And you know, you've made an album here. It's kind of like an album that I would have liked to make, or I'd like to make sometime, because I love pop music. You know, I love Amy Winehouse. I love dance music, and you know, even when my band plays covers or mashups and stuff, we'll put these tunes together, like from Belle Biv DeVoe and Poison and Blackstreet and stuff like that, and just have a lot of fun in those circumstances where we can, where we're not necessarily, you know, playing our original music all the time. So,
Yeah.
but you've got some real earworms on this one, and one of them is Crowd Control. I think that's a really special song. That kind of hits me in a sweet spot. I mean, you picked the right key, and just the way your voice kind of cuts through and pervades the mix. It's really special. I hear that one resonating in my head a lot.
That one is definitely, I feel like something that I don't know. I've had people come and say that one gets stuck in their head a lot. And it's kind of, you know, I guess when I wrote it, I was coming from like an Americana sensibility. And, you know, working with Martin, Martin Kierszenbaum produced the record, and he's done some incredible pop, you know, work. And so he brings his element to it, you know, with like the electronic drums and everything. And I don't know, it brought a whole different feeling to the track. And you know, it's been really fun doing that one live, because I see it's definitely more of a subdued moment in the show. But you know, I don't know. When I see people singing along to it, I'm like, okay, that's, you know, it's okay to subdue things from time to time, and to chill out, and we don't have to rock the whole, you know, entire
I
show.
love that. I love that. You know, I've had some really special circumstances when I've played like an original song for the first time, and I know people have never heard it before, and then they actually will start singing along because the chorus is that catchy. You know, and I
Yeah.
think Crowd Control is one of those tracks. But in terms of the subject matter of the lyrics, I wonder, just the way I heard it, it seems like there's this, you know, star or starlet who's kind of got a little bit of fatigue with that whole expectation and, you know, being, you know, on stage and the perception of the artist and what they have to do in their role, but then wanting to step back, you know, to go home, be into that solitude with whoever, your loved one, or even by yourself. That's kind of what I took away from it.
Yeah, I think it's about the battle between finding something that's genuine and real versus like the facade that I think all of us kind of get used to putting on for whatever reason. And, you know, so it's just about being able to find a balance. And, you know, maybe the song kind of finds itself out of balance or out of whack. You know, that's why it's being sung in the first place. It's kind of a sad song, but you know, but yeah, I mean, I think really I love it when people come and they talk about their interpretations of the lyrics and what it means to them, because to me, it's more important what it means to the listener than really what it meant to me when I was writing it.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
yeah, because it's about how it affects you and applies to you. So
One of the lyrical lines that struck me as interesting, since I'm a classical mythology buff, was "You call me Aphrodite like a curse."
like a classic, yeah.
Yeah,
I wrote that one. You know, when I moved to New Orleans, I was really, you know, kind of infatuated with like the folklore of like all my rock and roll heroes that had come down here. And, you know, the city is beautiful, but there's like this element to it that's kind of like intoxicating and, you know, rough in a way, you know, and you can really go down a wrong path. But it's like sometimes I feel like we idolize people who've like, you know, hurt themselves in a sense. You know, I guess I was thinking more along the lines of like a Marilyn Monroe or Amy Winehouse, or, you know, any of our rock and roll gods who've fallen, you know, before their time, but we kind of idolize it in this weird macabre sense.
yeah. It's
And
like
so that's sort of what that song is about. Just like you're gonna live and die like a classic. But I'm trying to think of the exact line leading up to it, because it makes a lot of sense. You might have to cut my part here
back
just to
it
think
up
about.
and find the context.
Yeah, let me
I
think
agree
about.
with you. It's like it seems like that, the overindulgence and the party lifestyle has been so romanticized and just,
Yeah,
and some of that comes with the freedom of and excess comes with that freedom that a lot of artists have who have a lot of money and access
yeah.
to these things. So you have to be careful. But you really have never struck me as anybody that's like that. You really seem like you're in like one of these indie artists who is 100% in control of their career. And that leads me to another question. I'd seen some rumblings on the internet some years back as I follow things of you kind of toiling between a decision to sign with some big label or not. And I don't know whether that happened or not, whether it was the Concord thing or if it was something else. But what happened there?
Like anything with art, like I don't know. I mean, you're always kind of faced with opportunities, if you're lucky, And I had a couple opportunities, where I did some demo deals with some different labels, But it's funny because the rumor mill will start churning out, what they think is, what people think is going on. Sometimes it's fun to watch because it's like they're way off base. I'm like, oh, that's
Oh
awesome.
yeah.
Um, but I did a demo deal for Warner Brothers at one point in time,
Okay.
and it wasn't that I turned it down. It wasn't the right fit at the right time, But
Timing's important.
yeah, timing's very important, and there's a lot of moving parts to all of this. So it's just about finding a team and a group that's going to work with you, and we all want to push towards the same thing. And for me, having like some artistic freedom and also working with a team that really has a lot of energy and wants to do the same things I want to do. I mean, you're looking for a family to support the vision. And, I've been really fortunate in that, everybody I've worked with up to this point has been very much like a part of that family.
Yeah, I agree with you. You really have to be trusting and careful about, who you work with. And it's like you don't just whimsically bring people in because they've done something in the past that's, evocative of success or real success or something. It's really got to be the right fit at the right time, and it's special, when it does.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's like this whole assembly line kind of vibe to, okay, it's, I got to put out another album. It's been a year or something like that, and you just got to do it. But you seem to me to be somebody that's while you're, business wise calculated and doing things, properly in that sense, your music just sounds, fresh and vibrant. Like I've been playing your stuff on my show for a lot of years, so I see the different styles, Killer Be Kind, that song and that record. Chills and Fever, that was a whole nother thing. I just spun, I think on my last Sunday show, I had a cut from that album and also your latest album, and they're different. In fact, we've got some listeners that whenever I play a Samantha Fish song, they say thanks for the fish fix. I mean,
Oh, that's so sweet. That's really cool.
yeah, we've got.
I appreciate that. And the last four albums or so that I've 4 or 5, I guess, that I've put out, I feel like are really conceptualized, from head to toe. And, I've kind of been able to take a trip down a different musical path. And, I'm really fortunate that I have a loving fan base that's kind of into that sort of thing, and they like the roller coaster that we're all on. Cause I don't ever want to put out a record that sounds like a record I did before if I can help it, I mean, unless I'm truly like inspired in that moment to make something that sounds, reminiscent of the past. But I just like moving forward and changing and shifting. And I'm really appreciative that I have a wonderful group of people that allows me that opportunity. And also like the fans seem genuinely okay with it at this point. We'll see what the next one brings, but
Well, I think you've got the type of fans that just will love and support anything that you do for the most part, and of course, that's a really special thing to have. We talked about your blues influences, and you bring that to this pop context on this record, your blues guitar, your soulful singing, the North Mississippi, the Kimbrough, the Burnside kind of vibe with these guitar based motifs that you'll start the song out, and then all of a sudden this other stuff will come in there. But you also talk about relationships a lot in your
Yeah.
songs, and transportation, whiskey. A lot of these things are still prevalent in blues. Since blues is the roots of a lot of the fruits, as Willie Dixon said subsequently. But I wonder about the subject of relationships, and you're busy on the road all the time, or a lot of the time, and you're working, you're doing stuff like this with me, talking with interviewers and people. I mean, where do you find time? What's your philosophy on relationships? Do you have to be in the relationship there to be in one, or you know what I mean?
Well, as a touring musician who's toured most of my adult life, um, you know, I it takes all kinds and it works all kinds of ways, to be honest with you. I mean, it
There's a lyric.
it just, I mean, we still need human connection, and I think human connection's a major influence in my music. I'm not just writing about street signs, and I don't think all my favorite writers, they write about experience, and that's the universal thing that connects us all, is that human interaction and how we feel about it. And I feel like no matter who you are and where you are, and what your job is, if you're home or you're gone or whatever, there's still that, because we all have hearts and we all crave connection, and that's at the root of it, that's what it is. So I write about that from either personal experience, or I'm also a storyteller too, so I don't have to tell you which stories of mine are autobiographical or not.
Right, yeah.
But I do write from experience a lot. And but I think that everybody, the reason why we write about love so much is because it plagues us all. It's something we all deal with: heartache, happiness, the joy that love brings you, and the pain that comes with it too. So it's universal, right?
I agree, and for me, it's my records are a little more spaced out because I'm not doing the road thing a lot. I've been committed to doing the radio thing for a while, and I love doing that and promoting artists like yourself. But my albums are typically, a lot of it is autobiographical, and the soundtrack, of my life in that particular time span from when I, included those songs from start to finish. So I understand the process and everything. What are you thinking about doing for the future? Are you working on anything new at the moment?
Yeah, I'm just now getting into that. I'm getting inspired again. It comes in waves. Once I finished Faster, it was like, it's such a relief to be like, okay, it's done. And then I kind of just like chill for a minute, because you kind of have to let life happen to you. Otherwise, I feel like I'm going to be just writing more stuff that belongs on Faster. So I took a little break. I just took a little bit of just a break from writing. But I'm starting to feel like I'll be at a concert or something, and I'm like, I got to leave and go home and work on something creative, because I feel like I was on the cruise this week, and I'm watching all this music happen. I'm like, I need to go write in my room. I need to get out of here and like go work on something. It's weird when the muse starts to strike you again, and there is definitely like a rhythm to it. It just, you have to have the discipline to recognize it and then go do something with it. And
Yeah, I love that. That's the way to be, because how, I mean, not to typify musicians, but a lot of musicians will have, little seeds, or a riff, or a chord progression, or an idea, or a lyric, and just have dozens of them, lying around that are undeveloped and never get finished.
yeah,
So, you and obviously I can relate to too, are a person who is committed to following through and working on these things, at least, to develop them and say, okay, well, maybe this is good for this album or this scenario, but at least it's done and you can evaluate it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But that, that's how it starts. That's how it starts. You get like a little melody in your head and you're like, I think that could be a hook. I don't know what for. Maybe it's a vocal hook. Maybe it's a bass line. You then have to, it's your job to then go, into your solace or solitude or go with a collaborator and just go work out what that even means, but if it's something that strikes you, then I write so much stuff that's just nonsense and I throw it away, but you have to go through the process to define like what's important and what's not. And if you don't do that, then you don't write songs. So
Right.
like,
Yeah, you're just kind of hacking at it or being a hobbyist.
yeah. So it just takes a little bit of, follow through, I guess, with those little things. But I always, it's funny, our phones are like so important nowadays. If anybody found my phone, I'd be horrified because it's just full of, it's just full, like more than like, I'd be mortified by any like goofy text thread or pictures I've sent to people. I'd be mortified at the voice memos that they'd find because it's literally just like hours of me going do 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 do. Like nonsense.
I agree with you. And it's like I wonder because at one time in my life I was a cell phone technician for Verizon Wireless. So
Oh yeah.
you end up with people's phones, and and there's contacts and there's voice memos and mails and just pictures and stuff like that. But I get nervous when I have a bunch of these ideas on the phone, and what happens if something happens to the phone? You know what I mean?
True.
I don't
Back it up in your cloud. Make sure your voice memos and your notes are in your cloud.
Yeah, exactly.
To be honest, that happened to me when I was making the Belle of the West record. And this is a story I tell, so it's not like a shocker, but I had this big fountain for my cats in my kitchen because they have to drink filtered fountain water. And I dropped my cell phone into the fountain, and all of my songs for Belle of the West, this was like 2 months before the session, just gone. And I hadn't backed up a thing, of course, And so I'm trying to find all my lyrics and my music, and it was just all gone. And I had to kind of pull out songs from my memory and then rewrite a bunch of songs and just script. It was like a nightmare. And I learned a very valuable lesson about the iCloud and backing your phone up. Because I would go like 6 months without doing it.
Yeah, I've switched over to Android, so it's not like it automatically happens like with an Apple or something like that. So I have
Yeah.
to be disciplined like that. But that can be scary. I mean, you've got all this logistical stuff in process. You're making plans with musicians and studio time and a producer, and you want to be prepared. You just don't want to walk in and say, "Oh, I dropped my phone. We don't have anything."
Whoops. Yeah. They're like, well, the studio session has been booked for a very long time. You know what I mean? And I had other notes to kind of help, but that was definitely my biggest tool that I was relying on. And I just realized how unstable that can be if you break it or lose it.
Yeah.
So
So artists out there or any burgeoning musicians, definitely back up your notes. It's that we have this technology to do it. I mean, we're able to just get stuff done at home on our computers, on a laptop, or even a phone nowadays. With the way the technology's come, so there really is no excuse, right, to be productive and get this stuff done. By the way, I had Lark and Poe on not too long ago, and they were really, raving about you being out there kicking ass, and what a great example of empowerment.
oh, they're sweet girls, man. I just hung with Rebecca on the cruise. She came out with her husband Tyler Bryant,
Right.
and they're just so sweet. They're like really nice. They're really nice women, and they're so talented. And together, they're like, it's amazing to watch. I love sisters harmonies. Like honestly, it's just they're made for each other, like sisters and family harmonies. Like nothing is better than that to me.
Related to Edgar Allan Poe. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's funny. Huh?
You know. So getting back to the songs on your album, I'll be using these segments to introduce some of these songs. Better be lonely.
Yeah.
Initially, reminds me of something like Billy Squire. Everybody wants you.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. Yeah.
But then, again, you're bringing it right into, a pop blues rock kind of vibe, and especially I love what you're doing with the guitar there. I mean, you just mentioned about harmonies with Lark and Poe, and the harmonies in your voice on the album are beautiful. I love how your voice is so expressive. When you do like I got the key. I mean, just stuff like that, and the way your voice goes in and out of the of your natural voice into the falsetto and everything. It's just
Oh,
it's really great. Um, but the lyrics on that is from the standpoint of somebody who's kind of putting the brakes on a potential relationship, saying, "Okay, I'm not ready. The timing's not right, but you better be ready when I am."
it's definitely written from a very selfish perspective if I kind of look at it, which I have no shame about that. But it's, yeah, you're basically putting somebody on ice, but you've got like a jealous streak and you don't want them to be with anybody else because you do dig them.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It's definitely written from like a very kind of selfish, immature perspective. But I don't know. It's fun. It's tongue in cheek, and that was kind of the idea. Like you better be ready for me when I come around.
Yeah, and I love your overall style. I mean, just the I feel like when I see you and the way you dress on stage that I need more animal print and leather in my life.
Yeah, why not? Print's fun.
Maybe
You
some
can make it
toys.
work.
There was another tune on the album, and it could be, you know, uh, relevant to what's going on in the world today, imaginary war. And I know it's probably not specifically about any particular conflict in geopolitics, but tell us about that a little bit.
I mean, that one was kind of um, that was a co-write between me and Martin. And I remember talking to him one day. I'd call him up and, you know, just sort of shoot the breeze with him. And I was pissed. I was angry that day because I don't know, I'd opened up my Facebook like first thing in the morning and I was in a good mood. And by the time I put it down, I was in a terrible mood because everybody was fighting and conflicting with each other. And, you know, it's been a couple of years full of that. And I feel like sometimes the way we interact with each other and how free we've gotten to be with, speaking to each other through our keyboards.
Right.
Exactly. Um, People are a lot more volatile that way and it's just a lot uglier. So he's like, hey, we should just, it's not really a song specifically about that because I don't really like to write anything that is that overwhelmingly topical but I do feel like it's something that, it's an emotion that I've felt over and over and over again, just frustrated with people and how they act towards each other. And that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah,
Just
Shamika
like,
Copeland.
I'm not going to buy into today's thing that you want to fight about. Um, and, just kind of just
Right.
getting my frustrations out through songwriting.
Yeah, let me get back to my phone and see what's on there, and then I'll work on that instead of arguing with people today. I'll be productive.
Yeah. Yeah.
What comes to mind is Shamika Copeland's Uncivil War. I mean, that seems to have
She's amazing.
yeah, yeah,
She's another person I hung out with this week on the cruise. I
yeah,
love that lady.
yeah.
She is such a powerhouse and she writes about really, I mean the stuff she talks about, she doesn't shy away from any certain topic. I think she's very brave and I like her.
Yeah, it depends on because I'm a person who is interested in likes politics and stuff like that. I find myself
Yeah.
like a centrist, more like a libertarian type who has friends and perspectives on both sides of the aisle. And I it's tough because for those of us that are open to talking about it at times, for us it's just like rooting on our favorite sports team or something like that. But for people who come to the table for music, don't want that. They don't want any expectations to be told about anything left, right, or center, or nothing at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who come to music as an escape from the quote unquote real world in politics. And it's tough because you can lose friends and fans, and definitely meaning gets lost in the whole keyboard warrior thing online. So it's
Yeah.
tough to strike a balance with that.
I write about it. I write about how I feel about things going on in the world. So I don't shy away from politics in my art. I just don't really choose because right now I don't feel like we're engaging in any conversation. It's more everybody just wants to hear themselves talk, with their fingers in their ears. They want to get their point across. We all have a soapbox, and nobody wants to meet in the middle. They don't want to hear each other. So for me lately, the last couple of years, I've clammed up about conversation, but I write about it all the time. All my records are full of my political opinions or my leanings. If you listen to the lyrics, you're like, oh, okay, she feels this way. But it's funny how people will misinterpret that and think you feel the exact opposite way or something. So it's all it's subjective to the listener. But I definitely write about it, because all my favorite writers write about it.
Right.
Bob Dylan never shied away. Neil Young never shied away. And
Yeah,
I,
I
so I,
mean,
I do think music has the power to change people's hearts and makes you open your mind. And I think that that's way more powerful to me than getting on Facebook and blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares about that.
yeah. Well, it's nice that you can have it encrypted in your art and let it be, like you
Yeah.
said, subjective to interpretation to the person. So, well, I wanted to get back to the album faster. You're going to be
Sure.
playing a lot of songs off the album at Town Ballroom on March 9th, I
That's the
assume.
plan.
And some
Yeah.
such. So, one of the things I noticed since I've listened to a bunch of your albums over the years and played them on WBFO is the overall production, the sound, the mix, the mastering on this is really um, dialed in great. I mean, it's crystal clear, it's sharp, but it's still warm, and it retains the dynamics of the performance. Because take a song like "Loud," for instance, where you've got the Tech Nine rapper on there. You are going from a really kind of soft, slash angelic thing in the beginning, and then boom, everything comes in. But if the album is too compressed or it's not recorded properly, you're going to miss the impact of those dynamics in the arrangement.
Yeah. And when I wrote that song, I mean, it was always kind of the oddball song, just because it goes from that shift. I wanted something that had like a real surprising kind of moment. And honestly, Martin's an incredible producer. He's got such a great ear for how songs should sound, and he brought in Rob Orton to mix the record. Rob's done just some incredible work with pop records. I mean, I really love the stuff he's done with like Lana Del Rey. So just the guy's got the most incredible ears. And when they sent me the mixes, I mean, I just was absolutely blown away because, yeah, you're not, that song in particular, I felt like would have been a real challenge, but it was one of the first ones that they sent me and it just sounded, amazing. So got all the dynamic that we needed.
Yeah, when you're
Yeah.
dealing with people on that level who win Grammys and deal with major artists, it's expensive, but you really are getting what you pay for in that regard.
You truly are. And, I feel like that team together, they're worth every single penny, just because they really, I mean, they elevate the sound of it. And, yeah, blown away. Really incredible mix engineer, and really easy to work with and talk to, and very open. Yeah, I mean, the whole process of making the album was just like, I really liked Martin's approach because he really focused heavily on pre-production and how we were going to arrange the songs. So when we walked in, normally I kind of go, I don't ever want to say like I go in and wing it, but I leave it loose because I want it to feel organic. I'm like, I've been harping on that for years, and working with Martin, I just kind of had this realization that no, you can put all this work in on the front so that when you go in, you're relaxed. And that's what makes it feel more organic. It's not necessarily that I don't know what's going to happen that makes it feel so unique. It's you feel, what you want, and you know where you're going. And so you can have fun with it and relax into the role. And he's so incredible for that. And like his production in the front end is just, he puts the time in.
Well, that's another thing that I can say about the overall production of this is there is a real depth to everything about it. not just where you're coming from as a blues artist, your voice and your singing and your songwriting, but what every musician brought as a team member to this. There's so much depth to putting things together that and depth in the lyrics and the songs and the content and some of the things we discussed. And then you go and put this all together into something that is like pop in a sense. And you're
Yeah.
like Bonnie Raitt, like ZZ Top, like one of my favorites, Johnny Guitar Watson, who also embodies that fun, sexy, empowering, but danceable thing. What I'm
Yeah.
getting at is you clearly and your team clearly understands that blues is in its essence and its and potency is dance music. You know what I mean? There are three
Yeah.
elements to music, right? Rhythm first, then melody, then harmony. So the rhythm is the most important thing because you could tap out any melody, could tap out any harmony. So rhythm is the functional thing in all of it. And we're talking about groove music and soul. So
Hmm.
so when you go and put this all together and make it a pop record with a lot of depth like that, it's pretty special. And I hope you continue doing stuff like this.
Thank you. I mean, it's the path I'm on, and I really enjoyed the process of making that, and I feel very proud of it. We took some chances that, I was like, will people relate to this? Will my crowd relate to this? Will new crowds relate to this? And I'm just glad I took the chance as an artist because it made me happy. And, I think first and foremost, you gotta shoot from that mindset, and honestly, like, I started as a drummer, so rhythm is the most important thing. It's what people dance to. So I'm totally with you on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And well, I hope to make the show Town Ballroom on the 9th. Samantha Fish and Devin Allman. We're not sure who the special guest could be. Could be Eric Gales. You said the River Kittens. Who knows? But I hope to be there and check out the show, maybe get a chance to say hi in person. But thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
My alarm clock wakes me up every day.